Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of BU Webinar Tuesdays. Our topics: underlying environment, economy, and society through digital access for year-long study sessions. This webinar is brought to you by the Office of the Vice President for Research, Development, and Extension, BU Research and Development Management Division, and Extension Management Division. To formally start our program this morning, I would like to invite you to join us in a minute of prayer to be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Almighty, ever-living God, the most merciful and compassionate, we thank you for creation and the life you have given us. Together, we people of diverse religions, spiritual expressions and indigenous traditions, who invoke you by different names, humbly pray for your providence and protection in the midst of the COVID crisis. Strengthen and guide government leaders and private agencies, especially our administrators, faculty and staff, for the wisdom to do what is right and just. Enlighten the minds of students, that despite the educational limitations in this new normal, they may study diligently and effectively. Bless our families, remove our fears, and help us to trust in your love, so that by our example and generosity, we can inspire and help others. Grant all of us, especially the frontliners, good health and accept those who have died in your kingdom. Amen.
Mayang magiliw, perlas ng silangan, anak ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiging, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisilip. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mabaga, may nilagang tulad, awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng matawat mo'y tagumpay na naglilili. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang mali magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng ating pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pamay mga pirang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Welcome once again. We hope that you are doing fine and in the best of health, despite the challenges that we are facing due to pandemic. We are happy to see familiar names and followers of this webinar series, and also the followers of the Bicol University Extension Management Division Facebook page. We are immensely grateful for all your support, and you are truly an inspiration for us to continue in bringing information that are timely and relevant. This time, let me call on the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, Regional Fisheries Training and Fisher Folk Coordination Division Chief, and the project leader of the National Stock Assessment Management Program, or NSAP, Ms. Noemi S.B. Lanzuela, to give us a message.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Good morning. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Am I heard? Malinaw po ba?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you po.
Okay, good morning, everyone. First, I would like to thank the Bicol University for hosting this activity. I'm sure that this is very, very useful and very informative to all viewers and listeners of this program. Now, on behalf of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, I would like to impart this message to everyone. You know, as we are moving forward in achieving food security in the country, so we are pursuing sustainability of our resources. So in the past, we have been focusing on what how we can be able to address all the problems in our coast, in our habitats. But then now we would like to shift the minds and hearts of our people to focus more on what can be done, what good can be done, and what more can be done to safeguard our resources in the country. So as you would know, our fisheries, our stock is not just being managed within the municipal waters, but uh, our stock is shared among regions in the country. So what the government now is doing is that we have already this policy on Fisheries Administrative Order 263, and this is the establishment of fisheries management areas for the conservation and management of fisheries in Philippine waters, which took effect on February 9, 2019. Now, what's the objective of having this policy? So, subdividing the Philippine waters into 12 fisheries management areas, we need to, particularly the academe and other institutions, Philippine government institutions, we need to establish a science-based participatory and transparent governance framework and mechanism to sustainably manage our fisheries. So we have already laid down the grounds in achieving this objective, and what we are doing now is we are converging all the resources, all the programs and projects that any institution can share, so that we can be able to achieve our the sustainable management of our country's resources. Now, this activity presenting the status of the coastal habitats in Bicol region, particularly in the eastern and western seaboard areas. This is a big help, particularly in managing our fisheries management areas. Now, for Bicol, we have the fisheries management area 7, and Bicol region is the lead region in undertaking this management, in leading the management area. So it is headed by our BFAR director and co-chaired by the elected local government official. And we have our members coming from the academe, from the NGO, from the fisher folk sector, from the private sector, and of course, behind that, in the crafting of the policy, we have our science advisory group from our local scientists coming from various institutions. So this is where a very good management, I think management plans can take place, because we have the science-based data, we have the science-based sources of information for us to be able to have a good framework in managing our fisheries. So to my colleagues and to everyone out there attending this activity, I am really very excited for today's activities, because we know that the Bicol University is the prime mover also when it comes to education, helping us, particularly the BFAR, in not just in undertaking research, but we also have our extension programs and activities. So with that, I think we will have a secured future for our generation if we can be able to sustain what we are doing now. So we know that biodiversity starts in the distant past and it points toward the future. What does it mean? This is according to Franz Lanting. So what we do now is our responsibility and our accountability. So kung ano man ang ginagawa natin ngayon, then I'm sure ang magbe-benefit nito ay ang ating future generation. So we're hoping na itong mga ginagawa ngayon ng academe, particularly the Bicol University, hindi lang po ito makakatulong sa ating mga kapwa, sa ating mga estudyante, but also to all our stakeholders who are watching right now. And we know that marami ng efforts ang ginagawa natin to save our resources, to manage our resources. And all the local government units are into developing their coastal resource management plans. And we cannot sustainably manage our fishery stock without looking at the coastal habitats that we have in the Bicol region. So this is a challenge to all of us. After the presentation of the status of the coastal habitats, what now can be done? Is it really still, we still have hope? Are we recovering? What's the status of our coral reefs, our sitas beds, our mangroves? So, siguro po marami pong mangyayari sa pag-umpisa ng Bicol University sa pag-disseminate ng ating mga ginagawa dito sa Bicol region. And we hope that this activity will be cascaded not just here in Bicol region, but also throughout the country, because after all, we only have one planet to live, and we have no other option but to take care of our resources. So thank you very much. Have a pleasant day. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Noemi S. Valenzuela, for that warm message and for having you with us this morning. Your message is also a call and a gentle reminder to each and every one of us on our role in the development, protection, conservation, and utilization of fisheries and aquatic resources, especially that we are all confronted on the challenges in terms of food security that threatens humanity. Indeed, the webinar topic, State of the Coastal Habitats of the Eastern and Western Seaboards of Bicol, is just so timely. Please accept this certificate of appreciation, and let me read to you this citation. Bicol University, Office of the Vice President for Research, Development and Extension, Extension Management Division. awards the certificate of commendation to Noemi S. Valenzuela in recognition of her meritorious participation and support during the #BU Webinar Tuesdays State of the Coastal Habitats of the Eastern and Western Seaboards of Bicol, held on March 23, 2021, via video conferencing and Facebook Live, given this 23rd day of March 2021 at Bicol University, Legazpi City. Signed, Arnulfo M. Mascareñas, BU SUC President 4.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Thank you once again, Dr. S.V. Valenzuela.
Welcome.
Before we introduce our first speaker this morning, I would like to acknowledge our participants coming from different parts of our country who are viewing with us this morning. For those who haven't registered yet, please find the link on the pinned event in this page. And to receive an e-certificate of participation, please like and share this page and live streaming. Importantly, please evaluate after the webinar. The evaluation link will be flashed on the screen and in the chat box. Thank you. The Bicol University played a significant role in terms of conducting researches on fisheries and coastal resource management. This webinar presents the status of selected marine resources, coral reefs, seagrass and seaweeds, mangroves, and reef fishes in the Bicol region. This research on the region-wide assessment of marine resources is in collaboration with the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, the Department of Science and Technology, and the Commission on Higher Education, as funding agencies and other state universities and colleges in Bicol as research partners. Our first speaker holds an academic rank of Professor 3 in Bicol University, a esteemed researcher that has published researches for years. He was the former Vice President of the Research Development and Extension, and now as the Director of the Research and Development Management Division. He is a marine biologist and a coastal resource management specialist. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Ronel Romano Dioneda Sr. Leoneda is not yet around. So I would like to call on our second speaker this morning to discuss on the western seaboard of Bicol. Our second speaker is a Professor 3 of Bicol University and teaching at Bicol University Tabaco Campus. He is also esteemed researcher of Bicol University and at present the project leader on coral resiliency of Lagonoy Gulf. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Antonino B. Mendoza, Jr.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, ma'am. So, I would like to share my PowerPoint. Okay ba? Clear naman po.
Yes, sir.
Ay, parang hindi siya nagana, ma'am. Oh, ayun. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Pleasant day, everyone. I'm going to share to you our research output funded by Picard UST that was conducted from 2017 to 2020. I am Mr. Antox Mendoza, the project leader for Coral Resiliency Project in Lagonoy Gulf. Okay. This presentation will focus on our resource assessment in Lagonoy Gulf, and it is all about the current status and resilience of coral reefs in Lagonoy Gulf, Eastern Bicol. Together with me are Dr. Plutomeo Nieves, Mike Borrejon, and Joshua Besta. We are all from Bicol University, Tabaco Campus. As a backgrounder, coral reefs in Lagonoy Gulf constitute valuable marine resources. It is a home to a variety of organisms providing food and livelihood. And in the study of Suleiman et al. In 2002, more than 60% of the fish catch in Lagonoy Gulf are reef attached, which is extracted in about 16,000 hectares of reef. It is fortunate for Lagonoy Gulf that it has 3 to 4 data sets that can be used to make comparisons. These are the REA, or the Resource and Ecological Assessment, sometime in 1994, conducted by ICLARM and the then BUCF. Then 10 years later, another resource assessment was conducted. It's called post-REA or post-RSA. And then we also have our 5-year program in BUTC, which is called the Bicol Fish Biodiversity Program, which was conducted from 1997 to 2002. And of course, other sources are the CRM data in each LGU. So if you will notice that the latest data or information available for the group is around 2004 or 2005. So an update to the current status is critical because any management strategy or implementation needs a science-based input. Thus, this study. Okay. So first we discuss what is resiliency, because it is one of the concept in our title, resiliency. Okay. So according to Ann Masten, professor in University of Minnesota, he defined resilience as the capacity of a dynamic system to adapt successfully to challenges that threaten the function, survival, or future development of the system. Okay, so and this can be applied to all resource or resources. You know? So with the danger being posed by climate change and the pressure being exerted by anthropogenic activities to the Gulf, not to mention that the Gulf is an alley or pathway of almost 21 typhoons annually, with 5 to 10 years being struck by a super typhoon. determining the resiliency or capacity of the reef of Lagonoy Gulf is utmost importance. This image, okay, so this image is from a website discussing climate change and resiliency issues. It shows that during, okay, sorry, wait. Sorry. Okay, so that sometimes in 2014, reefs are healthy. But from January to February 2015, there was an increase in sea surface temperature. Okay? That rendered corals to bleach. Okay? So nagkaroon ng bleaching in January 2015. However, with the prolonged bleaching, corals were not able to overcome impacts of bleaching. As such, after 6 months, algae took over the reef. Okay, so this is a classical picture of how resiliency should work. Okay, this slide also depicts the importance of a marine protected area being a no-take zone. In this study, Dr. Mumbig and others in 2013 used simulation models to determine effects of protection on large reef in Belize. They focus on ecological resiliency, which defines as the odds that coral will regrow after hurricane or coral bleaching event. They also consider the existence of parrot fishes as part of no fishing zone. Results show that with marine protected areas, ito pong picture sa taas, the picture above, or the image above, show that there is an almost 80% chance of regrowth after a hurricane or typhoon or coral bleaching. However, the picture below showed exemplified an unprotected reef or a fish zone area. Okay, so with this situation being unprotected and exposed to fishing, okay, chances of coral regrowth is around 13%. So this is the typical concept of implementing a marine protected area or a marine protected zone. Okay. So the objective of this study is to assess the three key functional groups, the herbivores, that includes the herbivore fishes, sea urchins, and other gastropods, the algae, or the macro and the filamentous algae, and the reef-building corals, okay, the adults and the juveniles. The second objective is to compare the three key functional groups inside and outside of the marine protected areas, and coral resilience in 6 selected MPAs in Lagonoy Gulf. The third is to describe the socioeconomic characteristics and determine its influence on the overall resiliency of the coastal ecosystem. Okay. This study is anchored on this framework. It shows that status, this box, okay, the status and resilience of reef in Lagonoy Gulf is directly influenced by the following factors: the abundance of macroflora, complexity of the habitat such as depth, abundance in diversity and the quality of corals, and of course, the abundance and diversity of the herbivores, the fishes and the macroinvertebrates, which in turn is affected by the socioeconomic characteristic of the coastal communities in Lagonoy Gulf. Okay, so this is the framework of this study. This is our study sites. It is composed of 3 provinces, namely Albay, Camarines Sur, and Catanduanes. Most of the sites, the reef sites, are located in Albay, where more corals abound. Overall, there's a total of 8 marine protected areas and 8 non-marine protected areas. But since we included outside the marine protected area as another site, overall we have 22 stations with around 94 transects. Okay. The methods used were basic or the standard reef assessment methodologies such as video transect for herbivore fishes, bell transect for sea urchin and macropods, line transect using the CPCE for corals, and photo quadrats for other benthos. And then for the structural complexity, we use the pressure data logger. And for the sand and rubble, we use the photo quadrat as mentioned above. Okay, so these are for the reef assessment methodologies. For our socioeconomics, we have conducted secondary data collection for determining the sociodemographics, socioeconomic demographics. So we collected municipal fishery profiles, then data from the Philippine Statistics Authority. For the fisher folk characteristics, we use the data or information from the fisher folks registration and boat registration database. Okay. Then for the fishing activity attributes such as density of fishers and income derived from fishing, we use the survey, the focus group discussion, and key informant interviews. Okay. So for the results of our study, this slide compares the living coral cover in selected areas in Lagonoy Gulf. Okay. So we have three data points, that is from 1994, 2004, and 2018. That 1994 is the REA, 2004 is the post-REA, and 2018 is the present study. Okay. So Dr. Licuanan in lowering the categories for describing the reef health. Okay. So the categories described by Dr. Licuanan are 11% for the poor, 22% for the fair category, and 33% for the good, and above 33% is excellent category. Okay. Remarkable also is the biggest decline of living coral cover in Rose Island, okay, which is about 76%. And the least or the lowest decline recorded was in the Colong Puro, which is around 3%. Okay. This slide shows the comparison inside versus outside marine protected areas in 6 selected sites. Generally, outside MPAs have higher living coral cover, okay, than the inside or the marine protected area itself. Okay. So of the 6 marine protected areas, Atulayan, Corangon, Sagurong, Uson, and Marilima, and Gamban Reef in Camarines Sur, 4 recorded higher living coral cover outside MPAs, and only 2 have higher living coral cover inside MPAs. T-test analysis revealed that there's no significant difference on the percentage of living coral cover inside versus outside the marine protected area. So in terms of management, this means that the management scheme or strategies that can be attributed or is attributed to the living coral cover is somewhat the same, whether inside or outside of the marine protected area. The succeeding slides determine what factors would contribute to the decline of corals in Lagonoy Gulf. First, we look at the distance of human settlement to the reef. So it was noticed that the mean of the coral reef that is far from human settlement is 39.25%, while those coral reef near the human habitations are around 19%. Okay, so result would show that it is significant. Okay, so which means that the distance of the reef from uh, human settlement is an important factor. Okay, so if this means that, okay, so if the reef is situated near a uh, human settlement, exploitation is easy. Okay, so this can be the reason why uh, most of the reef near the human settlement areas are destroyed or have low living coral cover. Okay. So next is we look into the possible impact of monsoons. It shows that the average coral cover of the exposed of those reefs exposed to northern monsoon is 33.4%, while those exposed in the southwest monsoon is around 16%. Possible explanation for this is that reef areas found in Camarines Sur and in Catanduanes are fringing reefs near the main island, where freshwater inputs is higher during the southwest monsoon, while those exposed in the northeast monsoon are far from the main island, like those that are in San Miguel Island, in Bacacay, or in Cagraray, then in Batan and Rapu-Rapu. So with these reefs being far from the mainland, they are normally free from high freshwater input. Okay. Next, we look into the depth versus the shallow areas. Okay. So deep areas have an average of 40% living coral cover, while the shallower portion of the reefs have around 26% living coral cover. Okay. This result showed that uh, the depth, okay, the depth the depth of the reef is significant. Yan, okay, so which means that uh, those areas, those reefs that are found in deeper portion of the Gulf usually have good living coral qualities or condition. One explanation for this is that shallow areas are easily accessible to fisher. There are thereby prone to destruction as compared to the deeper areas of the reef. So the next slide shows the comparison between reefs in a marine protected area and the reef in a regular reef, which means no protection, exposed to fishing. So it showed that the regular reef have generally higher living coral cover as compared to the marine protected areas. So the regular reef has an average living coral cover of 32%, while the marine protected areas have an average of 25%. Although it is a mind puzzle why regular reef are higher as compared to the marine protected areas, with the protection being attributed to marine protected areas, possible answer that we can offer is the so-called forbidden fruit theory. No? So, as we all know, forbidden fruit was used only to describe the apple that tempted Adam and Eve. Okay, so this is what we can offer to this explanation, where people are always tempted to do wrong actions, or people are always eager to try things that they know is forbidden. So nasa isip na, no, it is always in our mind that if something is prohibited, then there must be something in there. So we must try to see or look at it. So this can be one of the reasons why most of the fishers, instead of fishing in a regular or free zone, they tend to fish along the protected areas. Okay, the next slide shows or presents the uh, herbivore reef fishes in Lagonoy Gulf. Okay. So since this is a reef area, it is always, okay, nasa na ba siya? So it is always observed that Pumacentridae or the Pumacentrids are highest in terms of the number of species per family. Okay? While the Scaridae and the Acanthurids have 22 and 21 number of species respectively. With regards to the number of species per stations, top three stations were Sagurong outside, Marilima, and Rawis, while the lowest were Galicia, Atulayan outside, and Rose Island with 26, 25, and 20 species of herbivorous fishes respectively. However, it is important to discuss reef fishes or herbivore reef fishes with regards to or with respect to coral resiliency is the functional groupings of the reef fishes, okay? Such as browser, grazer, scraper, and territorial damsel fishes. Okay, so with regards to these groupings, it showed that the Gulf experienced heavy impacts from fishing. It can be observed from the sizes of the fishes, okay, the biomass, and of course, okay, abundance. Okay, so the sizes, abundance, and biomass are an important indicator of uh, exploited reef area. Okay, so Green and Bellwood in 2009 stressed that importance of large, or these are the more than 1 kilogram individual scrapers and grazers are important to maintain or improve reef resiliency. So ito yung mga mga parrot fishes na usually nag-exceed, or the acanthurids that usually exceeds 1 kilogram per piece. Okay? So sabi ni Green and Bellwood, according to Green and Bellwood, it is an important indicator, no, in reef resiliency. And absence of these large excavators and major target species in the reef, such as the large serranids, litrinids, and lichenids, suggests overfishing. Okay. Another indicator that suggests overfishing in the Gulf is the abundance of the damsel fishes, or the territorial damsel fishes, or the Pumacentrids. Okay, so their abundance would indicate less predator in the area. Okay, so wala nang kumakain sa kanila, kaya sila dumadami. So ibig sabihin, there is an absence of predators, or yung mga tinatawag natin na mga carnivores. Yan, okay? So scrapers, small excavators, and grazers, and the trichotubers have critical function in restraining coral algal sheep by constant removal of algal turfs, thereby limiting the establishment of growth of microalgae. So thereby providing or facilitating settlement and growth of coralline algae and corals. Okay? So, yan po ang importance nitong mga reef fishes. So, another important indicator for coral reef resiliency is the density of the juvenile corals. Okay, or these are the coral colonies that are less than 5 centimeter in diameter. Results showed that Lagonoy Gulf juvenile coral density range from 20 individual per square meter to as low as 1 individual or 1 coral juvenile per square meter. It was noticed that marine protected areas generally have denser juvenile corals as compared to the outside areas. Okay? So one possible reason for this is that since there are more areas for settlement inside the marine protected area, since they have lower living coral cover, so they may facilitate settlement of juvenile corals. Okay, so also one possible reason for this is that marine protected areas were selected based on its capacity to us as sink areas for marine organisms. So presence of suitable settlement substrate are also present in marine protected areas. So with regards to the regular reef, results showed that lower abundance of juvenile corals ranging from 5 individual per square meter to 2 individual per square meter. It was noticed that the density of outside MPA were almost similar to the density with the regular reefs. Okay. Composition of juvenile coral in Lagonoy Gulf were dominated by massive and branching type of corals with 46 to 46 and 26% respectively, while other life forms such as acropora branching and encrusting corals constitute from 8%, while foliose corals and acropora digitate recorded 3% each, while other life forms recorded 6% only. These are wait. So juvenile corals represents future of reef ecosystem after an anthropogenic stressor. No? Mortality rates gradually reduced with coral growth, and most coral escape mortality once they have reached sizes above 5 centimeters. Okay? So allowing the corals to grow, to reproduce sizes, and contribute to adult population. Okay? So the recovery rates are usually slow according to researchers. However, recovery can speed up exponentially once juvenile corals have grown into reproducing colonies. Okay. So the picture, the three images above, the figures labeled 1 to 3, were taken in Lagonoy Gulf, showing importance of juvenile coral in the resiliency potential or the recovery potential determination of a reef area. Okay? So in figure 1, corals destroyed after a blast. Okay? So this is an image showing impact of dynamite fishing. Okay? So we can observe fragmented corals in the sites. Okay? So this one could represent an stressor to the reef area. Or yes, to the reef area. And figure 2 shows this is from Bato or in Nagnangang Buaya in Bato, Catanduanes. Okay. So this one was observed recovering after 2 to 3 years of typhoon, no, that hit Catanduanes. So we can see small colonies of corals growing. Okay, and figure 3 shows the recovery or recovered coral reef ecosystem 3 to 5 years after the disaster. Okay? So this is in Marilima marine protected area. So you can see, or you will notice that the colonies of these Acropora corals are still in the juvenile stage. Okay? So overall, we can say that the reef, okay, so we can say that out of the 22 sites surveyed, only 3 reef sites showed higher recovery potential after a destruction. These are in Atulayan, Corangon, and in Gamban with 20 individual per square meter, 7 and 13, respectively. Okay, so this potential recovery values is based on the study of Graham et al. In 2015 that according to them, recovery is more likely to occur if juvenile coral density is more than 6.2 individual per square meter, which is also consistent with the expected role of coral recruitment and survival and reef recovery. Okay? So in Lagonoy Gulf, there are only 3 marine protected areas that show higher potential, while the rest showed low potential or low recovery. This is an important point to consider in crafting management interventions, okay, especially to the reef areas. Okay. So those areas that have low recovery potential should be a priority area for conservation and or rehabilitation. So another organism important in the resiliency is the presence of herbivore invertebrates. These invertebrates in association with herbivore reef fishes would provide critical input in recovery potential process. So in our study, we only found 11 species of herbivore macroinvertebrates, okay? And were mostly dominated by the sea urchin. So although there are several stories that explains the presence or absence of herbivore and macroinvertebrates in the area, however, its presence is an indication that it is helping the ecosystem recover or prevent algae from taking over the reef, resulting to a so-called phase shift. This slide presents the density of herbivore macroinvertebrates in Lagonoy Gulf. Density range from 1.21 individual per square meter to as low as 0.02 individual per square meter. So if we do not have a longer time in monitoring movement of these herbivore macroinvertebrates, we could not readily conclude that the presence or absence of these macroinvertebrates, for example, the sea urchin, is a result of the presence or the absence also of the algae, which is a competitor of corals. Okay? So maraming kwento pagdating doon. Maliban na lang po kung meron tayong longer na period or time for observation. Okay? Okay. So the succeeding slide presents the socioeconomic condition of the coastal families in the Gulf. Remarkable is the average monthly income of the families based on the primary and secondary livelihood activities, okay, which is way below the poverty threshold for a family of 5, which is according to PSA is 10,481. This is in 2018. Okay. Yun. Okay. We all know that fishers have always more than 5 children. So yung sinasabi dito na poverty threshold of for family of 5, which is 10,000 for is not enough, na ang minimum na member of families for a fisher is around 7 or 8. Okay. So we compared it with the status. Sorry. So the highest income, monthly average income is in tobacco, which is around 6,500 pesos per month. Then followed by Sangay, and the list is in San Andres in Catanduanes, which is only 3,720 pesos per month. Okay, we compared this income with the status of the living coral cover and also the amount of dead coral cover. This is to reflect that low-income families have the tendency to exploit more resources to be able to survive for a day. And since coastal resources are the most easiest way to acquire income, overexploitation leading to destruction may result. So parang that is the one-way approach in determining the impact or the effect of poor families on the low income to destruction of resources. Okay. Next, this shows the fishers density in municipalities of Laguna Gulf. It will be noted that developed areas or municipalities near the area of commerce have denser fisher folks as compared to areas far from it. Okay, so example dito, ang mga center of commerce ay ang Tabaco, yung Tiwi, and then Birac. Yan. Okay, so sila yung mga center of commerce. Okay. So density per square kilometer range from 150 persons per square kilometer to 1,600 persons per kilometer, per square kilometer. Okay, so in Tabaco. Also remarkable is that municipalities with available job opportunities like Tabaco City, so maraming economic activities which requires more manpower. And Tiwi also have geothermal job opportunities. So marami din ang nangangailangan. And also in Birac, have lower percentage of fishers as compared to other areas. So which means that some of the fisher folks or the coastal families are leaving fishing in exchange to working in mga commercial establishments or other job opportunities. So this slide tells us the capacity of the fishers to own a fishing boat and fishing implements. So we're able to derive at a ratio of 6:1 registered fishers, boat and gears respectively, okay. Which means that 5 out of 6 fishers do not have the capacity to buy gears or have the money for boat construction. So dito nakikita kung gaano kahirap ang mga tao dito sa coastal areas natin. Okay? Also, another reason why reefs or reef resources are depleted or are exploited or are destroyed is that most of the fishing gears used to catch fish are highly or moderately have impact to coral reef. They have high or moderate impact to reef ecosystem, such as nets or gill nets or bottom set long line. Okay, so mas marami ang gumagamit as compared to those fishing implements that have less impact to coral reefs. We also have conducted a vulnerability assessment. This is only an example, no? Or yeah, part of the table for the TORF analysis. Okay, or this is the tool developed by scientists or people from the UP Marine Science Institute. Okay, the BA TORF. Okay, so overall, vulnerability of Lagonoy Gulf is medium. Okay. Yes. So yan ang overall na story nitong ano natin, BA TORF. Okay, so for our conclusion, marine protected areas are functional but are under threat by natural and anthropogenic factors as exhibited by its steady decline for 25 years and community structure of associated fishes and invertebrates. It has the potential to replenish itself, as exemplified by the presence of juvenile corals, okay, and also the presence of herbivores, the invertebrates and the fishes, indicates recovery potential by balancing coral-algal competition. Results also displayed the importance of marine protected areas in reef resiliency because of its role as a source or a sink of coral recruits. So the living hard coral mean cover of adjacent reef areas were higher versus the inside MPAs and that of regular reef. No? This would mean that marine protected area management strategies are not effective in improving coral reef living hard coral cover. So importance of crafting or revising new strategies such as legislation, organizational structure, and financial and community support on how to improve and strengthen management. Okay. So reef dependence is still high despite low and or declining state of coral reef and reef fisheries. Standard of living of fishers are way below the poverty threshold, which compel them to fish more to meet their daily needs. Fishers are 6 times higher than boats and fishing gear, showing economic capacity being not able to afford to build boat and buy gears. And almost all are engaged in municipal fisheries and uses gears that have moderate to high impact to coral reefs. So for our recommendation, we recommend to strengthen marine protected area management system by institutionalizing funds, activities, and capacity building. Increase awareness not only to coastal communities, but also to other stakeholders like students, applied communities, and tourists. Coordination with other local agencies, especially on the implementation of government projects and activities that would have impact to marine protected areas, and implementation of science-based coastal rehabilitation such as mangrove reef, coral rehabilitation, shoreline stabilization, and others. Okay. So provision of suitable assistance program that is friendly or with less impact to reef should be done. Okay? So, yun lang po. Maraming salamat. Sana po naintindihan ninyo. Salamat. Ma'am?
Thank you very much, Professor Antox Mendoza, for that prolific discussion of the state of western seaboard of Bicol, the Lagonoy Gulf. I'm
Sa
sure
ano po
that
tayo, ma'am? Ma'am, sa Eastern po. Eastern ang Lagonoy. Yes, ma'am. Yung Western po kay Professor Juneda.
yes, sir, sorry. I'm sure that our students, participants, Fisher Fox, LG officials, academicians, and even ordinary citizens would find meaning in the existence of these natural resources, the fisheries and aquatic resources, and in protecting marine life. We are honored to present to you this certificate of appreciation and let me read to you the citation. Bicol University Office of the Vice President for Research, Development and Extension, Extension Management Division, awards this certificate of appreciation to Antonino B. Mendoza Jr. in recognition of his meritorious participation as resource person during the #BU Webinar Tuesdays, State of the Coastal Habitats of the eastern and western seaboards of Bicol, held on March 23, 2021, via video conferencing and Facebook Live. Given this 23rd day of March 2021 at Bicol University, Legazpi City. Signed, Arnulfo M. Mascareñas, SUC President 4. Thank you once again, Professor Mendoza.
Welcome po, madam, sa lahat po na nanonood at nakikinig sa atin po, ma'am.
Yes, sir. For our participants, please reserve your clarifications or questions if there are any after our second speaker. This time, we will proceed to our second speaker. He holds an academic rank of Professor 3 in Bicol University, a esteemed researcher that has published researches for years. He was the former Vice President of Bicol University Research, Development and Extension. He is now the Director of the Research and Development Management Division. He is a marine biologist and a coastal resource management specialist. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Ronel Romano Dioneda Sr.
Good morning, everyone. To the organizers. By the way, can you hear me? Organizers?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. My apologies, I was late because of problem in internet and power issues. But things gets better now. Ganda na yung signal. So thank you very much, my compadre, Mr. Mendoza, for giving us some insights of the status of your area of responsibility. That's the Pacific Seaboard. About the coastal habitats there, primarily represented by Lagonoy Gulf. Allow me to share my presentation, ma'am. Is my presentation visible now to the audience?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We can see your presentation po.
Okay. Okay. Good morning once again. Philippines, just like the figure at the lower panel of this slide, is an archipelagic country. It is composed of thousands of islands, big and small. It straddles in the western Pacific edge, and it's potentially lies as well on the west on a potentially conflict hotbed, the West Philippine Sea. Just like other archipelagic countries, Philippines is not immune to impacts or trade-offs of fragmentation and isolation of islands. But being archipelagic is more of a blessing than a curse, The diversity of habitats afforded by our coastal zones and continental shelves have provided us for centuries not only life-giving fishery resources, but also priceless protection or shield against or inherent to our vulnerability to many hazards. The trenches, which are being pointed by yellow arrows as part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, allows small island components of our archipelago to keep afloat as the Pacific plate subducts to ours. These are my responsibility is on the western seaboard of Bicol. It is, as we notice in Bicol, on the western side, in comparison to that of the Pacific, most of the seas here are internal seas. We need to say they're marginal, they're small, they are bordered, they have a lot of islands that actually found within the west seaboard of the country. Unlike in the Pacific seaboard, wherein it's a vast sea, and we can only island of Catanduanes as the farthest island so far we could identify on our coast. This second slide is still the Pacific or the archipelagic Philippines. There are arrows there that points to two directions. This one thing I would like to capitalize on as one of the springboard of my discussion, because this process of bifurcation of current coming from the east, we call it North Equatorial Current, which when they hit the shelf, continental shelf of the Philippines, especially Bicol Shelf and part of Samar, they tend to split into two, one going south, the other one is going north. The one that goes south becomes the Philippine or the Mindanao current, while the one that goes north is the one popularly called Kurushu current. This is very important in regulating thermal, in making thermal regulations in the Pacific Ocean, similar to what has been documented as performed by the Gulf Stream in the Atlantic, in the other side of the ocean. So this processes, oceanographic processes that we have, actually gave us diversity of coastals and oceanic habitats. It gives us a multitude of resources, fishery resources, which we consider as rich, but in distress as well because of overexploitation and decades of abusive fisheries. And our country is now divided into fisheries management area. The one reported by Professor Mendoza is belonging to Fishery Management Area 1, while the one in the West Bicol side is covered by Fisheries Management 7 largely. So Bicol then, as far as the archipelago of the Philippines is concerned, is very strategic because of this oceanographic and as well as geologic processes that keeps our 7,000 and more islands afloat within the vast sea of the Pacific and Indian Ocean. This slide seems to tell us that sa'yo ang Pacific, sa akin ang west side ng Bicol. This is explainable because we've been working together with Professor Mendoza for almost 30 years on this, starting with Lagonoy Gulf, but because of assignments, it appeared that I focused on the western side of Bicol and he focused on the Pacific side. And we're lucky to hear updates about Lagonoy Gulf as far as coral resiliency is concerned. You're going to hear from me not so technical terms, but updates about the status of these corals, seagrass and seaweeds, and mangroves in the west seaboard of Bicol. These colored pointers you see are actually the very sites I'm going to report to the audience. These are results of the researches taken from these sources. From DNR, the research we conducted entitled SCREM in 2015, the CMEMP, which we did in Batuan, Masbate, the ICRMP project, which we had in Acid Gulf, from WWF about the incessant monitoring in Dunsol, which results to the only site, coral reef area in Bicol with 6 high resolution data or coming from monitoring about corals and reef fishes. And also the one we conducted in Montreal. This is in Masbate. Likewise, the recently concluded participatory resource and socioeconomic assessment funded by BIFAR through its fish coral project, which actually gets financial support from United Nations IFAD, which we conducted in 2019, becomes a very substantial source of data for Albay and Albay Gulf, Ragay Gulf, and Acid Gulf. And also with the institutionally funded or supported R&Ds of Bicol University and with other partners. So let's start from the south. This is, from the north, I should say, this is Ragay Gulf. Bicol side lang po to kasi we know Ragay Gulf is bordered by places coming from 2 regions, one coming from the Quezon province and the others bulk are coming from Bicol. So this is from Ragay Gulf. You have here the list of the municipalities with marine protected areas, and they vary in sizes, both in sanctuaries and reserve. If we're going to account the total area covered by these marine protected areas and take the percentage of that from the total municipal water of the Bicol side of Ragay Gulf, we could only derive 0.88% of the municipal water. This is the only protection our marine protected area is affording or covering or providing to our municipal water in Ragay Gulf. Question: is this enough to protect the coastal waters? Answer: not enough. In fact, our law dictates that it should be 15% or more. And if we're going to take into account, in Masbate, it's even higher because Masbate has an environmental code, provincial environmental code, which says that it should be 40% of the municipal water to be protected either through marine protected area system or other mechanisms. So let us dissect then the status of the reef system of the coral reefs found in Ragay Gulf in these municipalities, starting Del Gallego. We know Del Gallego is the neighbor already of Pagkawayan or Quezon province. So let's start from there, and the map would tell us that andun po siya sa pinaka-northern head ng Ragay Gulf. So I provided a locator map for us to visualize where the data I'm presenting is located. So this is the data we got coming from the reef system there in Del Gallego. This is from a marine protected area in Sabang, which is a 526 hectare marine protected area. The corals, I suppose, coral health, I suppose, was already discussed by Professor Mendoza as to how it is assessed in terms of health. It is assessed by percentage. If the percentage of coral cover is 75 to or 76 to 100%, that means that's excellent. If that is from 51 or 50, I should say, to 74, that means you have a good coral health. But if it's only 26 to 50%, that's fair. Lower than 25, Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you and we can see your presentation.
Okay, sige. My apologies again. I got disconnected a while ago. Allow me to proceed now with Ragay Golf. So having said the scale by which our coral reef is being graded, here by the way, I'm here in Del Gallego. Here, the percentage of live coral cover is 32.90. If we're going to use the scale a while ago, that will fall to just fair. So Del Gallego has a fair coral cover, and it has a lot of hard corals though, 32% or 32% of those are hard corals, and that's good with minimal soft corals. There are, however, a lot of substrates, meaning to say the coral reef of Del Gallego is clustered and it's not a continuous coral reef system. It is appearing as a cluster of independent coral reef systems. So that is Del Gallego, and that is in fair condition. We saw some evidences of bleaching, as this figure would tell us, which probably could tell us that the reef system being shallow is vulnerable to drivers of bleaching. Nagpuputi po siya, and when we dive this, napakainit ng tubig. And we saw that this could have been primarily the reason why it became bleached. Let's go down further. These are still some shots coming from Del Gallego. There are efforts there to somehow make an artificial reef attached to metal frames, but then this is not so advisable because when they grow, yes, they will grow, but when they grow, they become heavy. They just be dislodged by, not even by typhoon, but some stronger waves as they gain weight and they die or when they got dislodged. This is in the live coral cover in Ragay is 49 to 54%. It's almost good, so better than in Del Gallego. In 2005, merong nag-assess dito sa Ragay Golf at ito ang nakita nila. It was 38.4 to 42.9 sa ugtok. 38 to 42 or 43% live coral cover. So ngayon, it's 49 to 54, nag-improve. In fact, this is the gist of this presentation. The reef system at the north of the Bicol, West Bicol seaboard is in better shape than what you would find when you go further down south. So you have that Tagbak, which is almost excellent, 71 to 77%. Katabangan, 77 to 74, and Luhong, 78 or 8.8 to 13.65, which is in poor state. So meaning to say, in terms of ugtok, one of the marine protected area, gumaganda ang reef system natin compared dun sa existing data na nakuha natin in 2005. So these are some of documentations of the reef system there. Napakaraming isda. Nakita nyo yung dalagang bukid andyan. And napaka-rugos ng or napaka-complex ng habitat na ino-offer ng reef system. Maganda. Meron din silang project na livelihood doon. This is a grouper cage culturing. Nandun din sa coastal area nila, and we're able to document that as well. Let's go down, Lupi, Camarines Sur. So, ang Lupi naman, it's in good 57 or 54 to 57% live coral cover is already good. And this is from a marine protected area called Bangon, which is just very small. It is 54 hectares only. What is interesting here again is it's purely hard coral. So nakikita po natin as we progress with our discussion na although parehas ang hard and soft coral are ecologically important, pero mas preferred natin na maganda yung reef system na puro hard corals because of added functions niya ecologically, like its role in protecting coastal zone from high energy ng wave na pwedeng makasira ng mga bahay at ng mga ari-arian and so on. So it's in good shape. Baba po tayong Pasakaw. Sa Pasakaw naman, nakita namin na napakaganda ng reef system nila. In fact, yung mga previous projects ng BIFAR noon at ng ibang agencies ay nakafocus talaga sa Pasakaw. Especially, I've heard that dito nagsimula yung at least yung parang coral rehabilitation effort sa region dito sa reef system ng Pasakaw. Pero tingnan po natin yung kalagayan ng reef system nila. Yung isa po na nasa tinal mode ay nasa fair condition lang. Samantalang yung Sarimaw, yung medyo nasa may dulo na parte, is actually in good state. Again, makikita natin na ang kagandahan ng reef systems nila kasi lahat halos ay or dominated by hard corals. Kulang yung soft corals. Kaya lang malaki talaga. Dito nagsimula na nakita namin na itong algae na to, lumalaki yung coverage na. What is so alarming about this is this algae or macroalgae, we locally call this po kulapo and other brown algae or sargassum. They actually inhabit or proliferate in areas that are previously corals. So yung mga dead corals, ginagamit nila na effective hard substrate at doon po sila tumutubo ng malawakan. Ano po ang danger nito? Yung corals po, kahit patay, pwedeng mag-recolonize. Pero pag naunahan na po yan ng algae, nahihirapan na po. So, whenever dead corals become inhabited or colonized by macroalgae, mahihirapan po yung coral na mag-recover. These are some shots that we got in Pasakaw. Let's go down to San Fernando. It has two marine reserves, Ngaran and Kotmo. They're just very small. All in all, they have a total of 142 hectares. So, tingnan po natin din yung health ng corals ng dalawa. Sa Ngaran, 37.72 po siya. So, meaning to say, it's only in fair condition. And if you're going to inspect closely, again, you will see the dominance now of macroalgae, the algae, which are 45% almost. So again, that started in Pasakaw, and it goes down to this San Fernando. And if you are going to notice that as we go further south in Acid Gulf, lumalaki yung colony or coverage ng algae, reducing further the area that are supposedly corals. So, in 2017, there was an assessment held in this area, especially in Pinamasangan and Kotmo. In 2017, it's almost all good, 48 to 58% live coral cover. And in Ngaran, it was 60%. It's very good in 2017. So it's somehow deteriorating. It's somehow reducing its live coral cover. And we attribute that to the dead corals that are now inhabited by macroalgae. Let's go further down, Minalabak. So in Minalabak, the Bagulataw sanctuary is again also very small. It's only around 20 hectares. My net got disconnected again. I'm back. So allow me to share again I'll go back to my presentation. Can you hear me po?
Yes, sir.
Pasensya na po, we need to contend with this.
Okay lang po.
So allow me to continue. This is now in Bula. We are nearing the boundary of Camarines Sur with Albay, west seaboard. So in Bula, it's also good. Pasensya na, nagkamali lang po. That's supposedly good, not fair. So mean to say, majority, it's very good because majority of the hard corals. The majority of the living corals are hard. Not even an inch of soft coral was detected. However, we saw considerable percentage of dead corals, which is in 21.16%. And we observed that the reef system is very complex and it offers a very good habitat, different habitat to fishes. No wonder we observed a lot of macroinvertebrates here. One figure being presented here with a pencil is a giant clam, which we saw so abundant in the area, and also fishes, school of fishes that are so huge, and also this is the only site we saw in Ragay Gulf wherein there are huge table corals. You can see here the relative size of a diver with the tabulate color that you will see in the figure underwater shot nearest to the map. So that's it. Can be a very good showcase reef system under protection, and this should be. We recommended this event to BIFAR because the regional office is actually in Bula, and they had actually a very good reef system right at their coastal zone. So this could be a very good showcase reef system for any developmental area or project by BIFAR and other agencies. Let's talk about Balatan. It has a very narrow reef system at Pararao. In fact, this is the only marine protected area they have in Pararao. This was one of the oldest reef system in Ragay Gulf. And may niluluto silang another marine protected area in Cogit, but it's yet to get legislated. It is very accessible to gleaning, high siltation, and other disturbances. There are presence of crown of terns and other disturbances. The health of the coral reef system in Cogit is good, while in the marine protected area, it's fair. It's just 26.74. So from here, we could see really the reason why the local government is considering the declaration of Cogit as well as marine protected area. These are some shots that we saw in the Pararao marine protected area showing a lot of sea urchins, which some experts are considering as some indicators of disturbances in the area. And the last zone or last municipality in Ragay Gulf is Batu in Camarines Sur, because there's another one that is going to be presented later on, which is in Burias Island, I should say. Batu has 3 coastal barangays. Each of them have a marine protected area. These are in Pagarpatan, Payak, and Palo. If we're going to account all of the total areas that they have, it will just be around 78.79, very small. So in Palo, we have detected as well a very good hard coral percentage of 42%. But again, the huge algal assemblage ranging from 35 to 38% reappeared. So overall, the coral health of Batu is in fair condition. Let's go to San Pascual, Masbate. The marine protected area of San Pascual is located in Busing, and this is the largest marine protected area in Ragay Gulf. This is 1,139 hectares all in all. However, the sanctuary is very small, only 65 hectares. studied or we assessed marine protected area reef system, the adjoining one in Tinalisayan, and we saw there a very good, almost a good in coral state. This is in Tinalisayan.
Excuse me, Sir Ronel. We cannot see your presentation po.
Sandali lang po, I'll fix it. Wait.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, ma'am. Is it now visible?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. This is in San Pascual, and as I was saying a while ago, the coral reef condition or health outside marine protected area is better than in what is inside. So meaning to say, it doesn't follow that a certain reef system is protected that you will get there the best reef system. That's usually the case, and in fact, that was also emphasized by Professor Mendoza a while ago. It doesn't necessarily actually mean that there was that inadequacy of management, but inherent lang talaga siguro ko sa site na mahina at vulnerable sa damage yung reef system. At saka bago siya na-declare, baka nabugbog na masyado ng fishing activities bago na-declare. Kaya it appears that no matter how we manage the area, hindi pa rin, matagal pa rin siyang makabawi. But we stumbled on some reef system na almost pristine, which are in better shape than in the protected reef system. That is exemplified here by San Pascual, Masbate, and we are going to see that trend as well in Masbate areas. This is one we observed in San Pascual. This should be dismantled. There is a practice there of coral rehabilitation that used kabilya or steel bars. But look at what it is now. Some of the corals that they planted grow, yes, but some of them fell. But if you're going to inspect or see, there are reef systems underneath. So what's the use of this trestle or this frame of putting them on top when in fact it's unstable and would just be dislodged when during heavy during inclement weather. So this is right in the Busing Marine Protected Area in San Pascual. They have also, despite of that, they have a very good reef formation as well, very clear water. In Talisayan, it's a very shallow reef area, but you will see here very good reef formations, amazing formations of reef system, and there are lots of fishes. This is very shallow. In fact, this is one of the favorite snorkeling site in the area. And because of that, and because it is shallow, it's vulnerable to damage, both by breakage from swimmers and by anchorage boat. We saw these disturbances as well in the area. We have garbages, we have bleaching, and we have coral rubbles that could probably tell us of its blasting history in the past and other observations. We also observe algal overgrowth in dead corals. And as I have emphasized a while ago, when corals becomes dead and they were overtaken and their recolonization was overtaken by algae, it's almost hopeless. They could not be recolonized by coral. So let's round up the Ragay Gulf Marine Protected Area reef system and non-reef systems. Let's just focus on the bar graph. These are
2005 and our result, the green in PRSA, we see generally improvements on many reef system based on the benchmarks. So this is good news because this is the only site we saw that majority of the reef systems are improving based on available benchmarks. Let's talk about reef fishes. This had been partly discussed by Professor Mendoza a while ago. So here's a tale of the tape between Albay and Ragay Gulf. You know, Albay Gulf is right in Albay and Sorsogon. We also assessed that and we compared that with the Ragay Gulf. In terms of biomass, medyo may kalakihan yung biomass ng nandito sa Ragay kaysa sa Albay Gulf. Albay Gulf, it's just 2.5 to 14 kilograms per 250 square meter, while it is hitting 31 in Ragay Gulf. In terms of fish diversity, it's more diverse in Albay Gulf. Highest recorded species we saw here is 33. It's 43 in Albay. However, the fishes in Ragay Gulf is more denser than in Albay Gulf. So that is the story of this slide. So all in all, Ragay Gulf is in better shape, except for fish diversity than the Albay Gulf. This is the one being mentioned a while ago by Professor Mendoza, the quality and type of fishes that we encounter in the reef system. Generally, they are categorized as target. These are the fish species that are the usual target of fishers in their fishing activities. Indicators are ecological indicators. These are the type of fishes that are used in determining that their presence or absence may mean some disturbances, some trouble ecologically in the reef system. And the major, these are the other fishes that are not actually targeted by fishing, but they are there, also equally ecologically important. But they are not actually commercially harvested because they are non-traditionally being consumed as food. If we're going to notice, there are lots of major there, very minimal targets and very minimal indicators. So less and less indicator species indicate prevailing disturbances in the water. There is a small proportion of target species which may indicate over-harvesting, and this harvesting scheme may be beyond their capacity to replenish. There is the dominance of major species, and this may signal shift of fish assemblage to less economically important. Although I would again emphasize that ecologically, importante din po ang major. Tingnan naman po natin yung classification ng mga isda base sa feeding habit niya po. So, majority are carnivore. We have 21% only as herbivore, and we have omnivore of 18%. There's very low herbivore, means trouble to reef system. Because with the overgrowth of algal coverage, as we highlighted, starting Ragay Gulf, nababawasan po yung grazers, nababawasan po yung nagko-consume ng plants. And this could partly be the reason why nagkakaroon ng proliferation yung napakaraming seaweeds at algae sa nandun sa reef system. So nabawasan po tayo ng cleaners or janitors sa reef system. In addition to that, water quality assessments that we did in conjunction with this assessment signaled or told us or yielded oversupply of nutrient, nutrification or enrichment of nutrient in the reef system. We know that reef system should be less in nutrient or oligotrophic, but then it's appearing now since they are near the coastal zone, they are becoming enriched, and this could probably enrich in nutrients. This could probably be the reason why we have this overgrowth of plants, especially the macroalgae. The ratio of herbivore to carnivore signals disruption of the trophic balance. Kasi po naman, kung puro na lang carnivore, kulang na lang yung herbivore, baka later on, magko-collapse din yung trophic system nito. Kasi wala na pong kakainin yung carnivore kasi kulang na yung nasa baba, yung herbivore at omnivore. Again, fishing grazers may have caused this imbalance. Fishing grazers that are normally itong mga angol, itong maming, itong mga labahita, itong mga fishes na nandoon na malalaki na nasa reef systems na kadalasan target naman ng mga fishing activities. So, two factors na kailangan nating tandaan dito kung bakit meron yatang konting problema or malaking problema tayo dito. Una, yung pagtubo ng maraming algae na pwedeng na-trigger ng nutrient enrichment, at pangalawa, na-trigger din siya ng pagkawala ng ating mga grazers. So, pagkawala na can be attributed to overfishing. Let's now go down to Albay. This is a data coming from a project funded by DNR in 2016-2015 called Sustainable Coral Reef Enhancement Management Project. So this was undertaken in Libon, OWAS, Ligao, and Puduran. You know, friends, this is the beauty of being in the academic institution and having this support coming from these national government agencies and other partners. You accumulate data that are so precious, that are so difficult to obtain. And we need to compile and make this data available for the utilization of scientists, of decision makers, of local government units, and others. At kayo po, ito po ay rare opportunity for us to present to you as well the comprehensive status, hindi lang ng isang lugar, but the entire Bicol region as far as coastal habitats are concerned. Ito po yung parang GIS ng kalagayan ng ating coastal habitats sa lugar na to. Nakikita po natin na lahat fair, except sa Puduran na may isang reef system na poor, pero yung Rapu-Rapu, ito po isang site. Let's just focus on this four. Huwag na po yung Rapu-Rapu kasi kay Professor Mendoza po yun. Nasa Pacific po yun. Makita po natin na lahat sila fair. Kumabit, fair na din sana ang Puduran, kaya lang kumabit po siya, kaya naging poor, lower than 25%. The seagrass is in poor condition as well in Libon, good in OWAS, good in Ligao, and good in Puduran. And in terms of mangrove, sa Libon, medyo may kasamaan yung kalagayan, fair. Good sa OWAS, excellent, very excellent in Ligao. In fact, sa Ligao, may mga natural stands at meron din pong mga rehabilitation results. Yung Puduran is also good. Let's talk about coral reef systems in this area, in Puduran, Ligao, OWAS, and Libon. So all in all, yung sa Puduran, sinabi natin kanina, poor. At makikita po natin, ang composition dito sa graph, dito sa baba, we could see here the comparison of the dead and the abiotic or non-living component of the reef system. It is entirely all of the four municipalities in west side of Albay have lower biotic or living component than non-living component. It's dominated by non-living component there in Albay Gulf. And we noticed that reef systems in not Albay Gulf, in the west side of Bicol or of Albay is very narrow. At ang status po or profile na gano'n ng reef system ay dala po hanggang doon sa baba papuntang Castilla, Magallanes. Ganun po yung profile ng reef system dyan. Makikitid. So, overall, fair, except for Puduran na bumagsak ng poor. Ito po yung mga observations na nakita namin. Growth of algae, rubbles, garbage, bleaching, anchorage, crown of thorns, which are predators of corals, and others. These are the reef fishes we observed there. We encountered 32 families and counted almost 300 or 277 reef fish species. This is one of the sites na kahit masama yung kalagayan ng corals, napakarami ng klase ng isda. As far as mangroves are concerned, in Ligao City, it's in excellent condition. Oas and Libon, it's in good state, while in Piudora, it's just in fair. And we could see here different types of river or of mangrove forests in the area, ranging from riverine, fringe, and basin type. These are what we documented in the west coast of Albay. Waste disposal, wood cutting, and some poaching even, and reclamation for other uses such as this one, installed with bunk house and other even houses. Fish pan conversion even. We also noticed that in these locations in the west coast of Albay, the capacity of the mangrove area to stay in perpetuity or to regenerate so that it would persist any disturbances that will come in the future is very low. That is measured by comparing with the grown-up stands or adult mangrove with the count of seedlings and saplings. So you will see here in this bar graph, those in blues are actually the seedling and sapling counts. So they're just so very minimal. So they have very small computed regenerative capacity, which makes the long presence or persistence of this mangrove area in the future to become questionable because of this. These are in seagrass bed as well. So in Piudoran and Oas, they have a very good seagrass cover exceeding 50%, while in Ligao and Libon, it just exceeded 20%. This is the bottom line of my discussion class about the significance or importance of the coastal habitats that we have. One of our economists computed this. He computed the economic benefits, total economic benefits of a reef, mangrove, and seagrass bed habitats that are in good condition or excellent condition versus poor health condition. So, in reality, the benefits are there. In reality as well, we will get far better or higher value of economic benefit amounting to 351 million a year when it is in excellent condition as compared to when it is in poor condition, which is only 18.61 million per year. So on a per year basis then, if we just become complacent with its present state, that is in poor state or fair state, we are actually incurring foregone benefits na sayang na kapakinabangan on a per year basis amounting to 233 million pesos. So ganito po yung parang economic translation ng mga figures na sinasabi ni Professor Mendoza a while ago at yung mga sinasabi ko din dito. This is when we convert this in monetary terms. Let's go further south. In Dunsol, as I mentioned a while ago, it is only the reef system in Albay, in Kamsur, in Sorsogon, and the entire Bicol na merong time series data na talagang established, starting from 2006, latest in 2020. It has two marine protected areas, the one in San Rafael and the other one in Catundulan. This graph is in San Rafael. And if you're going to notice, the live coral cover somehow decreases. But if we're going to focus on the dark blue, it's just the hard corals. So yes, it declined through the years, but the decline is not that high. But what makes the computation of live coral cover tricky is the erratic percent cover of very sensitive soft corals. Because of typhoon and so many inclement weather disturbances that happened in 2004, 2020, I should say, the soft coral cover dived to its lowest, which is 6.61, and that makes it combined with the 20.0 for hard corals, the smallest recorded live coral cover estimate for the marine protected area for the entire 6 duration of assessment. So bumagsak po ang coral health ng Dunsol sa San Rafael. Let's proceed with another marine protected area in Catondolan. Ganun din po yung kwento. It's still fair, but it is actually the drastic reduction of soft coral that pushed down the estimate of total live coral cover of the reef system in Catondolan. The same story. Kung babasayan po natin yung hard coral, no change sana, no change halos ano nangyari. But then because soft corals are sensitive and easily dislodged and killed by strong waves and by typhoons, so bumababa po siya from as high as 22.56 to just 4.35 in the present. Let's talk about the reef fishes in Dunsol. Tingnan po natin itong bar graph dito sa left side. This is the biomass trend of reef fishes from 2006 to 2020. So makita natin yung mga blue from 2006, napakakonti, tumaas, nagbagsak ng konti, umakyat ng todo, halos maintained, although nagbaba ng konti. Which means the biomass of reef fishes in the area is doing good. Maganda. Hindi siya masyadong laglag. At in fact, if we are going to compare this with data in entire Bicol, this is one of the highest estimates ng fish biomass per metric ton per square kilometer. On the right side, we have two clusters of bar graphs. The one is in Catondolan, letter A, and this is about the graphical representation of target, measure, and indicator. The same story with what we had in Ragaygo. Napakakonti ng indicator, although better, kasi yung sa Ragaygo, 3% lang po yung average doon. Dito, it ranges from 3.9 to 7.4. So this is in better shape. There are good presence of indicator species, even cleaner wrasse and other butterfly fishes that we see as primary indicator species. Target species, medyo maganda ng konti kaysa sa taas. But ang major, traditional talaga, mataas, ganun din. And as I emphasized a while ago, we wanted to have a balance between target and major, because target may translate right away to economic benefits when translated as fish catch of fishers. For San Rafael, halos parehas po, kaya lang mas madami po yung major, bumagsak yung target sa kanila at even yung indicator. But overall, parehas po yung trend. Mas dumadami yung major, bumabagsak yung target na halos dapat yun ang maganda sana nating makita. And more alarming is yung mga indicator species natin nawawala at pakonti ng pakonti. Let's go down further to Ticao Island. This is in Montreal, Masbate. This is one of the sites which we were able to assess, which has almost excellent live coral cover. This is the historical data na meron siya. There was an assessment in 2009 and 2011 at pumalo yung live coral cover niya between 29 to 48%. Fair vision. So there are other available non-reef system except for number 3, Ginhadap. This is the reef system, but other areas are actually in fair condition, similar tong sa MacArthur. But compared sa iba, ang iba, Morok-Borokan, poor, poblasyon poor. So, meaning to say, the one in Ginhadap, the marine protected area in Ginhadap, is well seated. The persons who assessed and provided the technical information that prompted the local government unit to declare this as marine protected area was right in identifying the site in Ginhadap. Let's go to our assessment result here. This is our assessment result. We relocated the marine protected area here and we redesigned it because it's very small. So we have still this old core area. It's between 19.42, and we found out that the adjoining one, they call it locally as Itiw Reef. It is in 46 to 71.40. It is in good, even excellent, almost excellent, live coral cover. But let us examine this excellent one. The hard coral is only 12.44% and 71.4% is soft coral. So meaning to say, tricky talaga ang system ng pag-assess ng health ng corals. Kasi nakabase ito sa total live coral cover. When we look at the quality of the live coral cover, karamihan naman soft coral. Although we need to emphasize again that hard and soft corals are both corals and they are both ecologically important. But in terms of hard structure buildup, which may eventually connect to coastal protection, we prefer a reef system that is dominated by hard corals. So this is the reality in this Itiw Reef. Although it is excellent, but majority of these corals are actually soft and vulnerable. Let's go further at the tip of Ticao Island. This is in Batuan, Masbate. By the way, the data for Montreal was a research commissioned by the Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF, in 2017 and 2016. But this one in Bongsanglay Natural Park, this is another project called CIMEM of DNR. And we were the one who assessed this. This is what we saw. This is about seagrass, the percentage cover. We obtained 10 species of seagrass in Bongsanglay Natural Park. And there were stations that are in excellent and good percentage cover. And the percentage cover of the seagrass are dominated by this species, Cymodocea. In terms of seaweeds, we were able to identify 21 species. Colerpa, which is an edible one. This is Lato. Halimeda incrasata, seaweeds that just like corals produce hard substance that contributes to stabilization of substrate. Colerpa, another member of the family of edible Lato, are seen in the area. Macroinvertebrates are seen as well, including ugub-ugub or sahang and others. We have detected here poor to fair coral condition. We have almost all stations having a lot of dead corals in the area. And largely, the live coral cover range from 19 to 35% live coral cover. Let's proceed, and this is the last site, to Acid Gulf. This is in Masbate. This is facing now Visayan Sea. We have here the profile of the marine protected areas there. And if we're going to see, the total area of their marine protected area is summing up to 3,113. This is around 1.38% of their municipal water protected. Is this enough? Well, this is better than in Ragay, which is only 0.88. This is 1.38. But this is not enough yet because what is mandated again by law is 15% and by their provincial environment code, 40%. But then it's better to have this 1.38 than those we see in huge municipal waters of Ragay, and even in Albay Gulf, which is just hitting 0.88 to 0.89%. We're able to have a high resolution transects, and we utilized result as well of Professor Mendoza in 2017 when we conducted ICRMP. We got detailed benthic life form data, and we estimated the present live coral cover life form and assessed the health. This is what we got. The rows or the columns are actually coming from the municipalities, and you're going to see there that the live coral cover or the health range from poor to fair. The lowest was detected in Recodo, 15.30, the oldest marine protected area in Acid Gulf. It has the lowest estimated live coral cover, which is equal to the one we also measured in Milagros in Bangat. The highest was found in Surusimbahan in Esperanza, and also somewhere in Nagarao, which is 40.72. These are data detected by Professor Mendoza in 2017. We saw the prevalence of algal assemblage, macroalgae, the growth of algae, which may signal disruption of coral recovery as they are outgrown primarily by seaweeds. Here we have a benchmark in 2014 from Ginlubngan, which shows high dead coral covers. Ginlubngan is not a marine protected area, but before in 2014 it has 26.29. If you're going to inspect the Ginlubngan in Kawayan in columns 3 to 4, it improved to 37%. So again, this is one of the data that we are getting from the field that tells us that being a marine reef system, being in a marine protected area is not an assurance that you have the best reef system. This is a visual of the trend of the coral health in the area. For live coral cover, bagsak. It goes down from nearly 68% to just average of 38%. Dead corals, tremendous increase. Algae, dati walang report or negligible, pero ngayon ang taas. Abiotic, mataas din. Excuse me. So, in its essence, there's a sharp dive of live coral cover in the span of 5 years. There were evidences of increase in coral, dead corals, and colonization of algae, and increase in abiotic component. Kinakailangan talagang periodic monitoring to establish trend analysis. Had it happened that wala tayong Mendoza 2017, saan kaya natin i-compare yung trend? This highlights the importance of monitoring, and we allowed the BFAR, the ENR, and other partner agencies in conducting assessments almost yearly kahit nasa PCRA template lang po. Yung Acid Gulf naman, pag tinignan natin, kinumpare natin sa Ragay Gulf ang isda, etong makikita natin. Bagsak siya sa biomass, talo pa rin talaga ng Ragay Gulf ang taas ng biomass ng isda ng Ragay Gulf. In fish diversity, kulang yung isda na nandito na nakita namin sa Acid Gulf as compared to Ragay Gulf. And again, mas maganda yung sa Albay Gulf. Fish density, may kakulangan din ang numero ng isda na na-encounter namin sa Acid Gulf. So all in all, if we are ranked in terms of profile ng mga isda, we could rank Ragay, followed by Albay Gulf, and then Acid Gulf, yung sequence natin from the best to fair status of reef fishes. At ito naman, parehas to ng diniscuss natin sa Ragay Gulf. This is about herbivore, carnivore, and omnivore. The same kwento. Ang dami ng carnivore, kulang yung herbivore. At again, we could attribute the very minimal herbivores here by overcollection, by fishing, intense fishing for that matter. At yung mga grazers na sinasabi dito, ito pong isda na nakikita nyo dito sa graph. Itong mga blue, mameng, angol, and others. Yan po yung mga grazers na importante sa reef system. Importante din po ang mga isdang yan sa pag-produce ng sand. Ito pong sand na natatransport sa ating mga coastal zones, sa ating shorelines. Part po niyan yung rework, yung kinitkit, ninatngat ng mga isdang ito coming from corals out of their feeding activities. Reef fish groups, again, still dominated by major, very minimal target, very minimal indicator. Ito po yung second to the last slide. I would like to highlight here the impact of too much thing like this in the dead corals na dati na dapat nagre-recover. And we said a while ago that pag ang dead coral na cover po nito, nahihirapan na po siya mag-recolonize yung coral kasi na-outgrow po siya and na-outcompete siya in terms of space utilization ng mga algae na to. So sinabi natin na ang nag-cause nito is nutrient enrichment at nabawasan yung grazers. So this prompted us or resulted to dense macroalgal growth on top of this stable substrate of dead corals. And if this happens, corals could not recolonize and there could be habitat shift. Pag meron pong changes ng tirahan, obviously may change ng species na nandyan. At baka mawala yung isda na dating target or mag-affect sa livelihood ng tao. Ito po yung parang translation into practical terms ng mga processes and phenomena na na-detect natin in these assessments. So, I think that's the last slide. I shifted to another laptop. That's why wala itong conclusion. Andun pala sa kabila. I was expecting na nandito yung conclusion. But anyway, as I have presented this results, nakita natin na as far as these dots are concerned, almost nasa-saturate na natin yung data requirement ng mga fishing grounds or critical areas of monitoring sa west side ng Bicol. We need to continue this because this should be time series. This should be our mirror to see impacts of many things that are happening to us that could probably be offshoots of changing climate and also weather disturbances and anthropogenic activities that are expanding always in our coastal area. So I hope we provided you some glimpse of the status of our forest in the sea, and hopefully we could further enhance our data sets for this. We could further collaborate on establishing the data sets for the status of these critical and fragile habitats, as they are always affected, they're always vulnerable to many drivers, to many factors around us. And from Bicol University, we have that commitment as well. Excellence for Fisheries Education, yung BUTC, at kami din sa Bicol University, embracing the reality that we equalize our emphasis on R&D, not only for terrestrial, but also for its aquatic counterpart is also necessary. So with this, we would like to thank you. And tayo po ay muling mag-ingat kasi hindi pa po over ang pandemic natin ito. But while we have this pandemic, we continue our work as science practitioners and advocates of conservation and sustainable use of our fishery resources. Maraming salamat po and good morning. Hello, ma'am. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Professor Dioneda, for that prolific discussion of the state of the western seaboard of Bicol. Your topic has made us aware of the condition of the coral health, the seagrass and mangrove condition in Ragay Gulf, Ticao Pass, Burias Pass, Sorsogon Bay, and Acid Gulf. Indeed, we are proud to have you as a committed faculty researcher that specializes in marine biology and an advocate of sustainable use of aquatic resources. Thank you also for validating the status of marine resources such as corals, seagrass, mangroves, and fisheries, and now disseminated to a larger audience. We are honored this time to present to you this certificate of appreciation that reads, Bicol University Office of the Vice President for Research, Development and Extension, Extension Management Division, awards the certificate of appreciation to Professor Ronel Ardioneda Sr. in recognition of his meritorious participation as resource person during the #BU Webinar Tuesdays, State of the Coastal Habitats of the Eastern and Western Seaboards of Bicol, held on March 23, 2021, via video conferencing and Facebook Live, given this 23rd day of March 2021 at Bicol University, Legazpi City. Signed, Arnulfo M. Mascareñas, SUC President.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you also for our participants, especially those who are coming from NAPOLCOM, from DA Regional Field Office 5, from BFAR, CMOU, and from other agencies. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This time we have now come to the last part of this webinar, which is the open forum. We will now take whatever questions or clarifications raised by our participant viewers in the Facebook page of Extension Management Division. So far, our staff in charge in collecting the questions or clarifications in the chat box haven't given me any concern coming from a participant or participants of this webinar. So moving on, let me just remind our participants and viewers to please register in the registration link that appeared on the poster of this webinar, State of the Coastal Habitats of the Eastern and Western Seaboards of Bicol. And also, please, yes, sir.
I read one very good query here from the chat box.
Oh,
there was the query, latest study. Is it true in all MPAs? How about the status of the management of the MPAs based on implementation of management plan? Is it possible to correlate management status with the status of the resources? And this was coming from, this was coming from one of our retirees, Ninfa Pilaya. Kalahati pala yung naka-display. Basahin ko ulit yung full message. Re, the puzzle on the better status of resource outside than inside the MPA was it the same status during the assessment previous to the latest study? Is it true in all MPAs? How about the status of management of the MPAs based on the implementation of the management plan? Nabasa ko kanina. Is it possible to correlate management status with the status of the resources? Short answer that I could provide to our very good director then, Ma'am Ninfa, is that yes, in fact, these resources, these assessment results are actually latest, and we also captured benchmark information. And we just did not presented the result. We also conducted inquiry and assessment of the management or governance of marine protected area. We did that in Dunsol, we did that in Montreal, we did that as well in Batuan and some other areas. And it manifests the quality of the status of habitats and the fishes that we found there are somehow manifesting the quality and the quantity of investments they infuse to the marine protected area. That's well documented, and even we had one publication for that in Montreal. So meaning to say, there are, as we have the means to assess the ecology, the corals, the seagrass, the mangroves, and do the dirty works there, we can also do side by side the assessment of the social dimension, and that is the governance, that is also the socioeconomic benchmarks, and even we went further into that extent of economic valuation as far as that one in west side of Albay. So pwede po yun, ma'am. In fact, that should have been standard. If we look into the bioecological side, there's always the need for the side information to be taken as well for the socioeconomic dimension and especially governance.
Hi, Ma'am Beth Santox.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think the question of Madam Pilea first is on the difference between the similarity actually between the status of the living coral cover inside the MPA and the nearby reef area or the outside MPA. So in our in most of our sites, mas mataas, no? So there's a higher living coral cover outside the marine protected area as compared to the inside. And it so happened, Madam Ma'am Pilea, that this kind of assessment methodology was not implemented in the previous studies. So before, when we studied or assessed or surveyed a marine protected area, we just focus on the marine protected area itself and not taking a look at the nearby or just outside of that area. So wala tayo, ma'am, ng mga previous data to compare, pero ito po nga, ma'am, na it's not true sa all MPAs kasi yung iba naman talaga, ma'am, maganda ang inside as compared to the outside. Same with the methodology of Professor Juneda. We also have interviewed the management councils of each of the marine protected areas, and yes, the effort or the money that were invested to manage the marine protected area can be correlated to the level of status or the quality of reef health. So yung mga areas na may palaging may mga bantay, may boya, may clear delineation, medyo mas maganda ang kanyang living coral cover sa loob as compared sa labas. So pwede siya ma-correlate. Kaso hindi na siya sinama sa report na ito. Hindi siya, ma'am, na isama. Thank you.
In addition to that, we have an ongoing now project still funded by under Fish Coral Project, and that is impact assessment of CRM interventions. And there we have to look into in collective terms the CRM efforts infused by BIFAR under Fish Coral as how they relate with the effort to curb down IUUU and also to arrest further deterioration of the coastal habitats we have. rehabilitate the ones that are damaged, and then maintain them. So this is actually a very comprehensive inquiry, impact assessment. One is in livelihood event. This one is non-livelihood. But they are all about impact assessment of the watchtower, Bantay Dagat system, patrol boat system, and others. So slowly, we are leading into that. We're looking into multi-dimensional aspects of doing it different from how we do it before, which we just focused on corals, we just focused on the fish. But this time, the social science is taking a very, very frontline role now in CRM. In fact, my team, there are people coming from CBEM, CSSP. These are colleges that have economists, social scientists. So we're heading into that, and it's just a matter of maintaining our efforts, maintaining our emphasis as well, so that we won't be missing the opportunity of coming up with the continuation of the baselines, time series data that may be very, very useful in days to come in detecting changes, predicting trends, and making decisions.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have another question here from Miss Jara Prestine Literal. Nabanggit niyo po yung importance ng parrotfishes. I was curious if they are important in our reefs po. Is there a law that prohibits from fishing them?
Yes, ma'am. As I have mentioned a while ago in my presentation, that these herbivores, especially if they reach the 1 kilogram stage and up, are very important determinants in maintaining the balance between the algae and the coral growth. Ano po, ma'am? So there is no law preventing catching parrotfishes. However, the method of catching them, yun ang may batas. So depende po kung paano nila kinukuha yung, kung ano ang ginagamit nilang gears, plus also kung saan sila kumukuha ng parrotfishes na yon. So for example, doon nila kinuha sa mga no-take zones or sa mga marine protected areas, yun ang bawal. Yan. Pero pinaka-importante siya, isa siya sa mga indicator fishes doon sa sa coral resiliency.
Gusto ko din pong idagdag, I'm familiar with the report of DFAR, yung NSAP nila. Isa sa report nila is very minimal yan, yung sinasabi ni Professor Mendoza na malaki, mga 1 kilogrammer na nito. Halos wala nang makita. In fact, pababa ng pababa yung, and become insignificant yung percentage ng mega spawners nila. So meaning to say, nung una kasi yung mindset natin sa fisheries management is ganito, ay maliit pa niya yan, huwag mong uhulihin kasi kailangan pang lumaki. And comes the time that we saw the importance as well of depleting yung mga malalaki naman kasi very efficient, marami ang itlog, very healthy at malaki yung chance na mag-hatch kaysa dun sa mga maliliit na mangingitlog. So yun din ang tinitingnan ngayon, protecting not only the small but also the mega spawners na nakita natin from empirical data din ni na Ma'am Babes na nandyan kikinig ay pababa ng pababa base dun sa mga champion species na sinusundan nila from NSAP.
Thank you, Sir Antox and Sir Ronel for that explanation. Meron pa po bang question? While andito pa po ang ating mga experts.
There is one question here coming from Dole and Balion. We are aware for this, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Good morning from Dole. We're glad to have you. Aware po kami na may maraming agencies, maraming entities, maraming organization na gustong tumulong sa ating mga mangingisda. Unfortunately po, itong tulong po ito, no matter how good the intention is, kung at the overall, mas makaka-complicate po na sitwasyon, siguro po we need to coordinate these efforts of boat and fishing gear donation to fishermen. Ito pong example. Aware po ako ng fisheries management na ginagawa sa region because I sit in the scientific advisory group ng fishery management areas natin sa Pilipinas. So, huwag na tayong lalayo. Doon tayo sa area sa Pacific Seaboard sa Lagonoy Gulf. May sinusubukan po diyang ayusin yung tuna fisheries natin. Na sana may parang panaginip na sana in days to come, maging parang gensan ang tuna natin dyan. So, meron pong management adjustment na ini-implement dyan. Na alam niyo po ba ang basis ng number of fishing boats na ginagawang benchmark or basihan? Hindi po 2019, hindi rin po 2016, hindi rin po 2017, hindi near to recent. Alam po ninyo yung number of fishing boats na na-estimate ng mga scientists natin na mag-produce ng sustainable fisheries production, 2004. Ilang taon pa po yun ang nakalipas? 16 years na. And year after year, although may nababawas naman, eh, dumadagdag po ang fishing boats natin. So, in a nutshell po, kung tayo po ay may plano na mag-donate or magkaroon ng intervention sa fishing boat distribution, buti po i-coordinate po natin sa appropriate government agency na design po or naatasan para gawin to. Hindi naman po talaga bawal ang tumulong sa ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda. Kaya lang po, may mga instances po talaga na hindi pwedeng ipilit na yung semplang na dun sa reality sa ground. Sad-sad na po ang ating tuna at fish stocks na any additional fishing fleets, kung sa economics, is an outright economic loss. May mga magsasabi na ayos pa niya ang catch kahit magdagdag, pero actually yung available resource po is yung capability niya limited na. So pinaghahati-hati nila kung anong nandyan. In fact, sabi nga po ng ibang mga tao, yung resources daw na ina-harvest natin ngayon ay actually hindi dapat para sa ngayon nating konsumo. Inutang na natin yung para sa susunod na mga araw. So yun po ang response ko, ma'am, doon. We appreciate that there are agencies, there are institutions that are willing to help our fisher folks. I think we better do it po in consultation with the appropriate government agencies that are mandated and who are actually very knowledgeable on the realities on the ground.
Thank you, Sir Ronel. We have questions coming in from Maria Christine Baruga. How does coral reef conservation adapt to this pandemic po? Are there survival strategies implemented to conserve them amid this pandemic?
Okay, so actually sabi nung mga marine ecologists, mas maganda ang impact mas maganda ang naging effect nitong pandemic sa marine resources because binawalan yung pagbiyahe ng mga tao, binawalan yung movement, so which also in somehow have restricted the fishing activity of some of our fishermen. So nakahinga sila kahit kaunti, kahit ilang months lang. So mas maganda siya. Ang naging problema according to some of the reports na yung waste disposal ng ating mga PPEs, yung mga mask, yung mga ginagamit natin na ma-protect ang ating sarili ay parang hindi na well managed. So karamihan, maraming mga reports nakikita tayo na yung mga face mask, yung mga syringe or nandoon sa coastal areas. So which later on makaka-apekto sa ating coral reef system or sa reef ecosystem in general. Pero kung yung pandemic lang, mas maganda ang impact niya kasi mas napapahinga siya. So walang masyadong pressure doon sa kanya sa loob. Yeah, thank you.
That is the positive side of this pandemic, Sir Antox. Thank you for that answer. We still have here po from Mr. Michael Hanserdinho. What government agencies are in charge over the management of marine resources? Are they doing enough for the sustainability of coastal and marine life protection? And also, what would you suggest and focus on if you were the one in charge?
Pang Miss Universe, ah. Okay. So, marami. Ang number one is yung LGU kasi sa kanya nakaatas yung municipal waters. Of course, nandiyan yung BFAR, Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, plus yung ating DNR. Okay. So, actually magaganda naman ang kanilang mga magaganda ang concept ng mga programs dito sa atin. Ang naging problema lang is yung implementation. So, ang rate ko sa kanila is between 5 to 7. Magaganda ang problema lang talaga, ma'am, is kulang pa ang support ng ating community doon sa mga projects ng ating gobyerno. Pero kung halimbawa tumaas din ang kumpiyansa ng mga tao na suportahan yung lahat ng mga mga government projects para doon sa conservation, rehabilitation and protection ng ating mga marine resources, siguro maganda naman siya kasi kung titingnan mo yung ibang areas natin sa Pilipinas, maganda yung support, like for example kung pumunta ka sa Palawan, sa Boracay or sa Marinduque or sa Mindoro, bakit maganda or parang okay naman yung implementation, pero pag halimbawa dito sa atin sa Bicol, parang mahina pa yung natin. Yung tao pa rin ang importante na dapat merong participation doon sa mga programa ng gobyerno. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Sir Antox. We have another question coming from Miss Precious Joy. Sabi po niya, this may be far po from the topic, pero regarding mangroves po ito. There is a law called Graduation Legacy from the Environment Act, where it requires all students po to plant at least 10 trees before graduating. Is it possible po ba na mangroves ang i-plant to comply sa law na to? Thank you.
Actually, ma'am, sa dito sa BUTC, sa fisheries, parang 'yon ang inadapt yata ng mga fisheries. Instead planting trees upland, ang ginagawa dahil ikaw ay fisheries, doon ka sa coastal area. So, pwede 'yan, depende kung saan pa ang location mo kasi hassle naman kung nandoon ka sa bundok tapos bababa ka sa dagat para lang magtanim. Siguro kung saan ka malapit, pwede naman tayo tumulong kahit National Greening Program naman 'yan or sa PNAP na tinatawag. Pwede. Actually, ma'am, yan ang ginagawa ng Bicol University Tabaco Campus, yung sa fisheries. Kaya medyo makapal na ang mangrove sa likod ng BUTC kasi parang yun ang ginawang project ng graduating students ng fisheries.
Yes, sir. And that is also a practical way of complying to the law. So thank you, Sir Antox. Another question from Maria Regine Andrada. What sustainability plans are there to continue and support the current status of coastal habitats in Bicol in terms of coral reef protection?
Pards, nawara ka, ikaw naman ang magsimbag.
Ongoing naman po. Thank you, Pards. Pang Miss Universe din. Ongoing naman po yung incessant naman ang mga local government units. In fact, kagandahan ngayon, kung may CLUP ba na legislated or mandated na isubmit yung mga local government units every 5 years. Ngayon, meron ng comprehensive development plan na nire-require at yung CDP na yon are actually fusion of CLUP and the Coastal Resources Management Plan. Yung sustainability plans na sinasabi po, nakaka-indicate doon. Good to note as well that we have a project now and we're assisting local government units develop their Coastal Resources Management Plan. Karamihan po meron na. Karamihan sa kanila are actually aware of the needs of having it, especially yung mga coastal areas. Doon po yun nakikita, doon po yun ina-articulate na sustainability plan sa CRM plan, including zoning ng coastal zone uses ng mga local government units. And we are deeply engaged on the process this time for ASID, for Albay, and for Barangay Golf.
Thank you, Professor Dioneda, for that. We have one last question from Miss Grace Broqueza. Good day po. Curious lang po ako on how far does the application of modern technology po in restoration of the marine habitat dito po sa Bicol. Thank you. How far does the application of modern technology?
Very far.
Actually,
For Mr. Universe.
may ongoing proposal po ang Bicol University Tabaco Campus with regards to utilizing laboratory grown corals using modern technologies to propagate or to grow corals in the lab and then transfer it to wild or sa labas. At tawag nila dun is outplantation or transplantation. So magandang naman siya. Marami naman mga technologies ang mga ginagamit ngayon, lalo na po yung tinatawag nating biotechnology. So marami naman pong mga processes sa yung UP Marine Science Institute, kasama siguro doon si Professor Dioneda, yung improvement ng natin, yung HABs, yung harmful algal blooms. Ginagamitan na po siya ng mga biotechnology or mga nanotechnologies para ma-limit yung yung number of cells, yung mga toxic or na mga dinoflagellates. Di ko alam kung na-apply na sa diyan sa Sorsogon Bay, pero ang alam ko ay meron ng preliminary study doon sa Lingayen Gulf. Yes, ma'am. Marami na po sa corals, yun nga nagpapatubo na galing sa laboratory tapos i-transplant, then yung sa mga sa red tide, yan, may mga bago na po. Plus yung mga bago ngayon sa fisheries, hatcheries, and nurseries, mga bagong technology na po na mga ginagamit para mas maparami, lalong-lalo na sa culture system na mabawasan na yung mabawasan na yung dependence ng tao sa wild na fisheries. Then mag-focus na lang sa aquaculture.
Thank you very much for that answer, Professor Antox Mendoza. So far, wala na po tayong na-receive na question. Meron pa po. May pahabol pa po.
Kala ko kakain na tayo.
How can we students be able to help in marine life conservation? Are there programs where we could join po? Thank you.
Actually, ma'am, maraming pwedeng pasukan. Depende na lang kung saan yung saan ba yung pwede ka maki-join for, sabi nila. Actually yung mga pinopost ko sana sa NSTP, yung kay Ma'am Weng na hawak dati. Dapat yung kasi nila is focus doon sa mga ganon na mga activities more on conservation or IEC, educational awareness doon sa mga barangays or sa mga mga farplang areas or sa coastal communities. So kung yung mga estudyante natin meron naman tayong mga available information sa research center, sa RDMD, plus yung mga researches ng ating mga faculty researcher. So pwede siguro yun gamitin na material sa pagkandak ng NSTP or yung National Training Service Program ba yun, ma'am? So pwede po yun, ma'am. Or pwede naman yung kasi kung member ka ng ng anong tawag doon, yung SK. Meron po merong programa yung mga barangay at yung LGU. Pwede po kayo doon sumama. Depende na lang po kung kung na-activate yun sa mga programa ninyo sa barangay or sa LGU.
Thank you, Sir Antox. Pwede pa po ba? Isang question na lang. It seems that our students are very, very interested in this topic. So, from Mr. RJ Beher, is the presence of algae in our waters a bad sign, considering they contribute with oxygen production?
Ay, depende sa kung saan ka, no? Depende kung saan ang ano mo, ang focus ng ano mo ng study. Although maganda in general yung presence ng algae kasi siya nga ang simula ng ano, siya yung simula ng food chain, 'di ba? Or ng food web. Pero pag sobrang dami na nila, ang algae kasi is a short-lived organism. So pag depende pa sa algae ano, kung halimbawa floating algae siya, pag kagaya sa Boracay, green yung tubig pero ang ano pala nun, ang ibig sabihin ay mataas ang nutrients kaya nabubuhay yung ano, yung mga plants, yung mga green. So ibig sabihin naliligo pag nakaligo kayo sa Boracay na green ang tubig. Nandoon kayo sa ano, nutrient rich water which is bad kasi ano, marami siyang mga microorganisms na kasama. So masama siya dahil 3 to 5 days after na nag-bloom sila po ay mamamatay. Then babagsak sila sa ilalim ng dagat doon sa substrate, ubusin nila yung dissolved oxygen. So pag naubos ng dissolved oxygen because of respiration or decomposition ng algae, mauubusan ng supply ng oxygen ang mga mga isda or other organisms doon sa dagat. So isa 'yon na bad sign sa floating or yung mga floating algae. Pero kung yung attached na mga algae kagaya ng mga turf algae or yung mga sargassum, paday na yung mga macroalgae na tinatawag, ma'am. Bad din sila pag nag-proliferate sila sa reef ecosystem kasi mas mabilis silang tumubo at dumami as compared sa corals. So since ang corals at ang algae pareho ang number one requirement nila is sunlight. So dahil mas mabilis lumaki itong algae, natatabunan niya yung corals. So pag natabunan na niya yung corals, stunted na yung corals, mamamatay siya later on. Kaya bad din sila. Kaya dapat meron tayong mga parang pulis sa ilalim ng dagat. Ayun po yung mga herbivores natin, kagaya ng mga sea urchin plus yung mga parrot fishes or yung barkada ni Nemo, si Dory. Yan. Sila ang mga kinakain nila, yung mga algae. Mini-maintain nila yon na hindi dapat sila lumaki at lampasan nila yung coral. So, in the way, binabalance nila ang ecosystem sa ilalim ng dagat. Kaya importante sila. Yun.
Thank you for that clear explanation, Sir Antox. Nahihiya lang po ako kaya lang may 3 pa po ditong question, but it's already 12 noon.
Sige po, ma'am. Okay lang. Para tapusin
okay,
na natin.
Sir.
Okay,
sige po. Thank you, sir, for accommodating this 3 more questions remaining.
Sige po, ma'am.
Sige po. From Miss Pam sa La Lima, Alemania, what specific phenomena will happen if no action is taken towards the destruction of coral reefs in Bicol? And what is the most effective way po to help save coral reefs? Thank you.
Yun nga, pag siyempre, ang corals kasi, calcium carbonate. So, nagwe-weather din siya. Ang calcium carbonate na yon ay kapareha siya ng chemical composition ng ating mga bones. So, habang tumatagal, nagiging brittle siya kung wala na yung animal doon sa corals na yon. So, ibig sabihin, pag namatay na yung coral polyp, which is the tissue, na living tissue doon sa skeleton na yon, madali siya ma-weather. So, dahil ang dagat ay chemically active, mas madali siyang mamatay or madali yun mawala, madali yung maubos. So may problema tayo kasi yung ating coral reef is a home, shelter, feeding ground, nursery area. So nandun na lahat, all in one na siya doon sa pagdating sa biology ng lahat ng living organisms. Parang dependent siya sa reef area. So kung nawala yon, tayong tao ay dependent din sa isda, dependent din tayo doon So mawawalan tayo. And of course, wala ka nang mapapasyalan na pag summer, wala ka nang beach kasi wala nang magsusupply ng magandang scenery hindi ka na makapag-selfie. so, ano bang dapat natin gawin? And of course, siguro ang tao kasi ay makakalimutin. Ang ini-invoke ko palagi ay yung continuous lang na information, education, and communication na campaign natin. Kasi po, mas madaling makalimot ang tao lalo na pag sobra na ang kaligayahan niya kung nandiyan na siya sa dagat, naliligo. Hindi na niya alam, nahahawakan na niya pala ang corals or he or she is standing on top of the coral. So dahil siya ay napakaliit na na animal, mamamatay siya. So dapat siguro doon na muna tayo magsimula. So yung awareness lang natin na bawal siyang hawakan, bawal siyang sipain or apakan. So yun, isa pa lang yun sa mga simula. So siguro mas marami later on ang pwede nating pag-usapan kung about conservation ang iniisip natin. Actually, meron kaming project na maganda ang acronym niya. Kami kasi mahilig sa acronym. Ang acronym niya ay MISIS, MRS. So, we love MISIS. So, ibig sabihin po, mountain, river, and seas. So, dapat, simula pa sa mountain area, sa mountainous areas, dapat alagaan na natin siya, linisin na natin kasi lahat ng tubig na galing sa mountain pupunta sa river, babagsak yan sa dagat. So may connection yun sila lahat. So parang dapat ang approach natin is general din. So lalong-lalo na sa mga kabataan, pwede kayong sumali doon sa program ng BUTC na Save the River, Save the Sea program. So pwede natin yung pag-usapan. Yan, mga simple lang muna ang pag-isipin natin. Yes, ma'am. Sana nasagot ko.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sir Antox. This is from Mr. David Andrew Palahe. May I ask po if who caused the most damage or harm to the marine life? Is it the small-scale fishermen or large-scale fishermen? Are there feasible steps that can control such acts of large-scale fishermen, since, in my opinion, they are the ones responsible because they are dealing more on the business side compared to the common fishermen that strive for survival only?
Actually, ma'am, dalawang mukha ang pwede natin doon. Dalawang mukha ang pwede nating tingnan. Parang sino ba ang nagkukos ng maraming basura? Yung mga kumpanya kasi marami sila, ay malaki sila. Pero kung titingnan mo, isort mo ang lahat ng basura, galing pala yon sa lahat ng household. So ganon din ang ginagawa natin. Ganon din siguro ang pagtingin natin sa mga small fishermen. Hindi lang natin ina-account kasi maliit yung kanyang dala. Halimbawa, net, isa lang na gill net. Pero pag sumabit yun sa corals, at araw-araw siyang lumalabas, araw-araw niyang sinasabitan lahat ang mga corals or mga seagrass or palagi siyang dumadaan sa mga mangrove areas. Paunti-unti nakakaapekto siya doon sa nakakaapekto siya doon sa ating ecosystem. Although yun nga, medyo malaki kasi ang nakikita natin doon sa mga commercial fisheries. Pero karamihan ng commercial fisheries ay nasa labas or nasa mga malalalim na lugar. Hindi naman yan magbe-venture sa coral reef kasi ang isang net or yung kanyang gear, yung fishing gear ng isang commercial is worth million. So hindi naman niya yun ipapasabit sa corals na wala lang siyang makukuha. At mas mura yung mga isda sa corals. Of course, karamihan mas mura kaysa mag-venture siya doon sa labas. So hindi ako advocate ng commercial. Tinitingnan lang kasi natin kasi meron naman tayong mga nakakausap at nakikita natin, ino-observe din natin ang kanilang operation. Although minsan talaga nandito sila sa loob ng municipal waters but not in the coastal or yung tinatawag natin na reef ecosystem. Yes, ma'am. Nakakasira din yung commercial fisheries kasi sila growth and dalawang overfishing na tinatawag, yung growth at yung or biological at saka yung tawag nakalimutan ko yung isa fishing basta yung lahat ng mga mortalities na yon ginagawa niya, overfishing na nandun sa sa commercial fisheries. So lahat naman actually lahat naman na extraction ay nakakasama kasi binabawasan mo yung balance ng ecosystem. Kahit ikaw ay maliit or malaki, ang pinag-uusapan natin doon ay binabawasan mo din yung nandoon sa ecosystem natin na yun nga, parang balance na siya kasi doon dati pa. So pag binawasan mo, hindi na siya naging balance. So parang ganun.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Antox, for that clear explanation. Last na po yan, since po yung pinaka-last question is almost similar sa na-erase na pong question.
Okay po, sana.
So, thank you once again.
Okay po, ma'am. Welcome. Salamat po sa
Yes, ma'am. This time, I would like to call the last number on our program to give us the closing remarks. May we call on our energetic and dynamic OIC Director of the Extension Management Division, Professor Rowena F. Zoilo.
Thank you, Ma'am Beth. On behalf of the BU Extension Management Division, we would like to say thank you to all our viewers at the FB and Zoom. Of course, I can see our partners dito sa Zoom. We have DAR, Field Office 5, yung DOLE 5, yung BFAR, yung NAPOLCOM, and of course to our champions in marine biology and coastal resource management. We have Professor Ronel Juneda Sr. and Professor Antonio Mendoza Jr. who just presented their papers. Thank you for sharing your time and expertise for us to be able to disseminate research results along the state of the coastal habitats of the western seaboards of Bicol. To the Office of the Vice President for Research and Extension, through our very supportive Vice President, Dr. Louis Amano, to all the center directors, the colleges and units, we deeply appreciate all your support to the division. The BU Extension Management Division works closely with the Research Development Management Division in the transfer of science-based knowledge, beneficial and usable to the partners that we are serving. To the EMD staff, both in the technical and administrative, thank you very much again and again for coming up with all the webinars that we are extending to our clients. And of course, we also would like to congratulate the Technology Innovation and Information Dissemination section of the BUEMD, headed by Dr. Beth Alfane, for coming up with this Tuesday webinar, a very relevant and responsive extension program, sharing complete researches and matured technologies to our clients in the Bicol region. Of course, with her is Sir Mel and Cha. Thank you for your technical assistance always. So this is actually how Bicol University impacts to hundreds, if not thousands, of our fellow Bicolanos through research and extension. Thank you very much again, and congratulations to all.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Wang, for that inspiring message. And to close this webinar program, we would like to extend our sincere gratitude to other partners, the Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Agriculture, also the funding agencies, the BFAR, DOST, and CHED, and the Bicol Consortium for Agriculture, Resources, Research, and Development. Let me announce also the upcoming next webinar episode on April 13, the Smarter Approaches to Reinvigorate agriculture as an industry in the Philippines, DASARAI. So abangan po natin yan. And with this, I would like to close this webinar by thanking all the participants and especially our esteemed researchers and resource persons, Professor Ronel Ardioneda Sr. and Professor Antonino B. Mendoza Jr. Thank you so much.